So I'm just going to be explaining how to do engine alignment. There is a couple of access points or adjustment laws, we'll call it. So one's radial alignment, and this is this one, and one's angular alignment, that's that one. Okay. So we've got 2 points or two adjustment axes. Radial is when you undo the engine mounts on the nuts that are on the bearers.
Yep.
And you move the engine that way or that way. And then the angular is the bolts themselves to raise or lower.
Okay.
I have set this engine up so it's out by the 2 axes. So it's out by the radial and it's out by the angular.
Okay.
You can actually see this on the coupling itself. You can see that there's a gap here, or a very small gap here, but a big gap here.
Okay, yes.
And you can also see that there's a big gap there and no gap there.
That's it, and that's because the engine is twisted.
So yeah, the radial's out by that way.
Yep.
And the angular is out by that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So we need to get it somewhere near where we want it.
Okay.
And then we'll be messing about with the fine adjustment. And even though we have aligned the engine to the prop shaft, and I nearly always use the rule that when you're aligning an engine, you align it to the stern gear. It's really important. Doesn't matter whether the engine looks twisted or out, we've got to align it to the stern gear.
Yes.
It's really important that we get that running in the stern gear true.
Okay.
So what I will explain later on is the black art, and I'm just going to explain why we call it the black art. An engine, if I were to balance the engine, unbolt it, and I don't know, I was He-Man with my finger,
yep.
And I was able to put my finger roughly, and I'll just go around this side, roughly in the middle of the engine, and I was able to lift the engine up with my finger.
Yep.
Right in the middle of it. It's not where the balance of the engine is going to be.
No, of course
is
it's
it?
not.
If anything, with the bell housing, there's going to be more weight at the back. So actually, rather than the middle of the engine, I'm going to be over here.
Okay.
And depending on where the weight of the engine could be heavier on one side than the other. So actually, my balance point might be about there. Again, if I had He-Man fingers, I could lift the engine and it would hold itself, and it would be around about here.
Okay.
The reason why I'm explaining that is that if we've done the alignment and it's all true, there's more pressure on one side, or there's more pressure on the back mounts than there are on the front mounts.
Okay.
If I were to get my pry bar out, and I will get it out, once we've done the alignment, we'll put the pry bar in there and feel how much resistance is on the engine mount itself.
Yep.
So we went on that one, felt it roughly the same. Go on this one, roughly the same. We come to this one, there's like no weight on it. And the black art is by able to try to balance the weight of. So all 4 engine mounts are taking
an equal amount of weight.
Yes,
load.
And that's the black art on trying to get equal amount of pressure on all 4 mounts. The other one is that you may have got feeler gauges out, you may have got the alignment beautiful, but when you fire the engine up, it's bouncing around because it's not happy.
Yes.
And that's when I was talking about the black art. It's taking a little bit of pressure off one mount and then applying it a little bit more on the other.
Okay.
So these R&D couplings, we have about 1 to 1.5 degrees of misalignment that we're allowed. What's really nice about that 1 to 1.5 degrees, I know it doesn't sound much, but it gives us enough to just play around with the engine mounts and just try to get so it's sitting right, it's happy. The other one is our centre flex couplings, the big aluminium ones. Again, we've got a degree or 2 of slight misalignment, but that allows us to play with the engine and just put a bit of different load on it.
Okay.
I will show you that later on when we come to having a fiddle with that fine adjustment. So the first one we're going to do really is we want to do our radial alignment, which is this one.
Yep.
Yep. Once we've got our radial somewhere near, then we can mess about with the angular.
Okay.
So looking at this, we can see we've got a gap there, but we've got a bigger gap there.
Yes.
So what would you say? The engine wants to go over that way?
Yeah, because this gap is initially bigger on this side. It will need to come this way, so that gap is widened.
Yeah.
Because that'll then shorten that gap. So yes, the engine needs to come to me a little bit.
So all I'm doing now is, if we are doing radial alignment, that we'd undo the bolts that are on the bearer.
Yep.
So then we can shove it over a little bit.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. This is. Look, the gap's opened up, but it needs to come over more. It would be.
To be honest though, that's levelled up quite a lot, that has.
Come up,
It has levelled up quite a lot.
Yeah. Still, I can see there.
Yeah, that one
see
there
that?
is still definitely smaller.
So she still wants to come over a bit more.
But it's definitely closed it up a little bit.
How's it looking like here? Better, worse?
It's still a little bit smaller on the opposite side, but it's not overly dramatic at the moment. Still needs to come a tiny bit. Probably the closest we've been the whole way around.
Yeah.
Adjustment.
There you go. How's it looking on the outline?
Right, so if we come to butty that right up,
Yeah.
we've still got a gap on this
Some
side.
more?
So
Okay.
yeah, a little bit more.
More.
Yep, we've gained a bit of resistance on the prop as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely out. That looks equal. I'd say maybe gap's slightly too big on that side, but it is equalish. That might be because this bolt's not all the way through. Actually, that might be.
Yeah. You can still see that there's a gap there, and that bit's there.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to tweak this way. That's better. Can you see that now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the bottom one. Yeah, that's equal to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, because obviously we've done that radial and we've got it somewhere near, what now I'm going to do is just take the coupling back out. Can you see that it dropped out there?
Yeah.
Can you see that where that's sitting now, where the holes are sitting?
Yes.
I need to bring the engine over this way more.
Yep. There we go. That lined up nicely.
Yeah. See, we've got that gap there and that gap there.
So yeah, they are equal.
So actually, our radial alignment is somewhere near.
Yep.
What I am going to show later, after we've done the angular, is how to finalise or fine-tune the radial.
Okay.
Okay. So we've done the radial. Now we're looking at the angular. Can you see on the bottom of this, it's touching?
I can
At the
indeed.
top of this.
That's it. We've got a couple of mil gap.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give you the spanner.
Okay, and I assume we've probably got to either higher the back of the engine or we've got a lower, no, higher the front of the engine, or we've got to lower the back.
Correct. Yes.
So yeah, I don't think, does it matter which one I do? To try and, I know you was on about the weight, like the black arts of obviously.
That's later. That's all a fine adjustment. What we want to do is get a
Get it
radial
spot
somewhere near and an angular somewhere near.
Okay.
So back to our adjustment on the nuts.
Yep.
Something I would just like to add
Okay.
is that if an engine mount's come loose, on the top we've got a nylock locking nut. It's the nylock locking nut that doesn't move. However, the nut underneath is not a nylock locking nut, and that's the one that generally comes loose. If that nut comes loose, you'll see this gap here. And what a lot of people tend to do is go, oh, my engine's mount, and they tighten this nylock locking nut down. But because that's done, the engine's then dropped.
Yep.
And if they tighten that down,
The alignment's out.
the alignment's out.
Okay.
So whenever if you found a loose engine mount, then it's tighten it up from the bottom. It's only once you've tightened it up as much as you can that you can then go on the top nut and crank it as much as you can.
That's it, yeah, lock it off.
It's generally, most of these mounts are on a 24mm spanner.
Yep.
I use this 15/16 AF spanner. The reason why I use this is it's quite short. When we're using a 24mm spanner, they're normally about this long. And working in a narrowboat,
Not possible sometimes.
you just physically can't do it. Plus it's a double open-ended, so I can twist it. It's shorter.
Of course you can.
So I'll pass you my spanner.
Thank you very much.
You can see, we know that because we've got this high spot, that actually the back of the engine needs to come up.
Okay.
But when we adjust the back of the engine up, what's going to happen to the front?
He's going to, yeah.
It's going to dip down. So what we will do is, we know we need to wind it up, so we're going to take the coupling off, then we're going to wind it up, and then we're going to offer the coupling in.
Okay, so would you like me to adjust it from the front of the engine?
From the front of the engine.
So we'll probably go so much
Yeah, see if you
rotation.
can count how many turns you've got.
So that was probably about half a turn.
Half a turn.
So if we say
Beautiful.
about
Something
half a
like
turn.
that.
Let's try it again.
Yeah,
So,
then grab hold of your coupling, make sure it slides into those
so
holes.
it does slide in indeed.
You can see you've closed that gap, haven't you?
That's it. It could close. It could do with being closed a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'll
Go again.
pull
Yeah.
it back out.
Yeah.
So we'll go half again.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Let's try it again.
Back to your coupling, that's it.
Oh, lines up beautifully.
How's that gap looking?
So the upper and the lower.
if you can see that, that should be butted there.
That's it, but it's still
There's a
open.
little bit there.
So we'll take it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm going down. Doesn't help. Go half a turn.
Half a turn.
Half a turn. Let's try again. Right, so that's,
Still see a bit
yeah, it's got a fractional gap.
Yeah,
The one at the bottom is still closed.
yeah.
So I'd say half a turn each again.
Yeah.
And that should.
It's better to go in small increments and keep testing rather than going in bigger increments.
Of course. Okay, let's see how we are now.
Now, can you see? I just spotted that, but you know we disconnected this so we can see it. But can you see it's actually starting to catch now?
Yeah, got a bit of binding.
And you know I was on about when you were adjusting the front of the engine
Yep.
up, that actually the back of the engine's now going down.
That's it. So
I would go quarter of a turn on there and quarter of a turn on there. What we should have by that coupling is that it just slides bump in.
we shouldn't.
out.
Yeah, the bolt shouldn't have any resistance,
No resistance,
on the gearbox. So we'll take this up a little bit.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's see what the resistance is like now. If I can find it. There we go. See, there's still a bit of resistance.
Yeah. I'll just have a feel there, bud. I'd say that you've maybe gone a bit too much on there, so
yeah.
take it off a little bit.
Okay. Probably just under
About
a quarter.
there, yeah. Just take it off a little bit.
Just
But as I said, we want that to slide boom, beautifully in and out. Other way, isn't it? Undo. Yeah, have a go.
There you go.
That and sound and looks
That's
nice,
it.
doesn't it?
You can't feel the bolts dragging against
No,
it. So,
that's beautiful.
and then if we budge it right up,
Now I can still see
fractional gap at the top there. Let's have a look at that. So it's still flush on the bottom. So would you say I've got to take the front of the engine up a little bit more?
Up a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay. Right, I'm just doing a quarter of a turn this time instead of half a turn.
Yeah.
Let's have another feel of that.
Yeah, you're nearly there, to be fair.
So there's no pulling on the splines.
It's looking better now.
Yeah. It looks equal all the way around, more or less.
Yeah. I think you're nearly there.
That's it. I'd say if we're going to do it, I'd probably take that a quarter of a turn a bit more on the front of the engine, and we'll see.
You see where you are.
That's it.
And each time, by sliding the coupling back out, and you've done some adjustment, then slide it back in, you know whether you've got your angular or your radial out.
Of course. Okay.
Oh, that's looking nice.
Nice and closed. And then on the bottom one, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm quite happy at that. I'm quite happy at that.
Does that make sense with regards to everything that I've showed you?
Makes plenty of sense.
Yeah, it's all about, for me, it's all about that fine adjustment. Not fine adjustment, but those little bits of adjustment, go back, slide in. Because sometimes you can do too much adjustment.
Yep.
And you take it the opposite way, and you get then you create more problems. So if you've taken it too far, you know where you adjusted last, so you go
exactly. You can go back that bit too. Yeah.
So next one we're going to do is we're going to get my windy gun out now.
Yeah.
And we're going to tighten these up.
Okay.
When we tighten them up, what's going to happen?
Well, he's going to try and push it down, so we're going to gain resistance again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we tighten it all up, it might alter it a bit. So I'll slide that back out. I'll just get my windy gun out.
Okie dokie. Thank you.
So yeah, just give them. You don't have to swing on them, but just give them.
No, just enough until they're bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Beautiful. Initially, spanner will do the same job. It doesn't have to be a windy gun. It's just quicker and easier.
Nice.
Yeah, the washer's still. That's good. Right, now let's have a.
Then we go back to that to see whether that's
It's pulled
altered
it out.
Yeah.
So that went in smooth. I can feel a little bit of drag on them bolts. A little bit of drag, but if we butt it right up,
beautiful.
we've still got no gaps in between.
But does that make sense? With tightening those down, what you do is then
You're forcing them mounts, aren't
it forces it down. So yeah.
Okay.
So then what we'd do is then we'd tighten all these up and obviously bolt that back together.
Yep.
Quite happy with the alignment.
Okay.
Now I'm going to talk about that fine adjustment.
Finding the weight and yeah, oh, it's got the nuts on.
Okay, so we've done our radial alignment, we've done our angular alignment. Everything's come together quite nice. What's really important is that we go old school again. We grab hold of the prop shaft and we spin the prop shaft.
Okay.
What we don't want is any tight spot. We want a full 360-degree rotation without it being tight. Nice
no binding.
and easy.
Okay.
However, if we do get a tight spot, it means that when we have tightened it down, it's just altered it a little bit.
Okay.
And again, that's fine adjustment. So we talked about the balance, or the centre balance of the engine. And what we want to do is try to put a little bit of equal load on all four engine mounts. The best way to do this is a pry bar. I'll just show you. And it's just underneath this coupling. This here, what I'm going to do is lift the mount. You can see that.
Yep.
And I can feel how much pressure I'm putting on that.
Okay.
When I go to this one, same again. That feels as much the same resistance as that one. Go around to the front. Now that's a lot easier.
Yes, you can see it's not
because
easier
there's
anyway.
more weight at the back, isn't there?
Yeah, that's it, and plus it's structurally tighter because of obviously the prop and everything holding it in place.
Okay, even though these engine mounts are worn,
Yep.
you tell me which one's got more load, and you should be able to feel it. You feel that? Yeah? Go around up, check all four.
If the bar falls out, because the rubber's starting to perish.
Yeah.
I'd say probably weight-wise, this one's probably taking majority of the weight.
Weight, yeah.
I'd say possibly this corner is the lightest.
And I would confirm with what you felt there, because that's exactly what I felt.
Yes.
These two are even-ish,
Yep.
but this one seemed to be a lot easier to push up than that
That's
one.
it. Well,
And it would make sense with regards to what we're feeling to what you're seeing.
yes.
Nearly all of the weight on the engine's on this side. So these engine mounts and the back engine mounts are the ones that are going to wear first.
Of course they are.
But if this engine was a running engine and we fired it up, we'd actually have feeling it vibrate.
Yeah.
And that's when that fine adjustment comes in. We know that we can preload a bit more on this one
Yes.
and a bit less on that one.
Yep.
So if we wanted to preload this one a bit more,
Yep.
how would we do that, Joe? Cone?
I assume that we'd be able to adjust it. So if we was to slacken the nut off,
Yeah, which I'm going to do
and
now.
then, if I'm correct, rise it slightly, or
Yeah, yeah.
because obviously, yeah, if there's a lot of weight in that corner, we're trying to twist it initially. Twist it enough not to knock the alignment out, but enough to take that bit of weight off. Yeah.
It is literally that. But in that mindset that we can, we've got a degree or a degree and a half of misalignment that we can play with.
Okay.
But by us just putting a bit of preload on there means that when we fire the engine up,
We're not going to
it's
have all.
smooth,
Yeah.
it's sitting right. But sometimes you won't be able to know how to preload it. We've done that with a pry bar and we felt this one.
Yep.
But the best bet is actually to fire the engine up
Yeah. See what the engine responds
and see what
like.
the engine's doing. So if this engine was running, this is what I'd do: is I'd undo these top nuts, I'd fire the engine up, I'd actually put it into gear,
Yeah. See
and
what the
then if I'm getting vibrations, then I'd literally get my spanner and I'd take a bit off this one, put a bit more on that one.
Yep.
This is why it's a black art, because you've got to listen and actually use your senses with regards to, you know, there's no real book that tells you a bit on here, a bit on there. It's all down to the individual engine, to the individual boat, on how much you take off and how much you put on.
That's it. It's like they say, every boat is built differently. There's no such boat as the same.
Yes.
So it is, yeah, fine tuning.
But that does that make sense with regards to that fine adjustment? I can't really. I can show you or tell you what to do, but it's only when you get there that you'll know. I've done these black art ones before. Customer says, "Oh, I have brand new engine mounts, but it's vibrating." Spent about an hour, and it is literally an eighth or a quarter of a turn off this one.
Yeah.
To an eighth on
So
that one.
whatever you remove from this, you've got to apply to that.
What I would say is when you're doing this fine adjustment is remember what you've done, because if it gets worse, you need to try to put it back to where you've
Try to
gone. You've gone in
rectify
the wrong direction, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Some mounts and some engines means that actually one mount would like to be preloaded more and some would like to take the pressure off. It's just to get that engine sitting and, you know, so it sounds right, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But I think everything I've explained with regards to an engine not being balanced, that's why you need to just fiddle around with it. If you have fiddled around with it quite a lot, then it's a good idea to go back to the coupling.
Yeah.
If you've adjusted this, taken that, the engine seems happy, slide the coupling on, slide the coupling back off. Yes, it's all right. I've seen all the gaps. That's all good.
Yeah.
One last thing I'd like to say before we wrap up once we've done that stern gear, we've talked about that angular alignment, and we've done the fine adjustment or the black art on that angular alignment.
Okay.
There is a fine art with regards to getting the radial, and I think I said this. We've got the radial somewhere near.
Yep.
Now there's a fine adjustment, and for me the best way of truly dialing in that radial alignment so it's bob on and beautiful, tighten all your coupling back up.
Yep.
You've got all your alignment, tighten all these engine mounts down. Then what you do is you undo the 4 or 8 bolts that go onto the bearer.
Okay.
All we'd do is we'd undo them, not until they're slack, but just and so the washer is semi-loose.
Okay.
Then what I would do is I'd then fire the engine up, then I would pop it into gear. Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you got the rotational or the thrust from the engine,
Yes.
if that radial's slightly out while you're in gear, what's it going to do?
It's going
to pull itself straight, isn't it? Because you're popping it into gear, that drive wants to be true right through the stern gear. So by loosening the engine mount and actually popping it into gear, that engine is going to come bob on through to that stern gear.
Yes.
Once you've done that, and you only need to put a little bit of thrust on it, is then shut the engine down, boom, stop it as it is. I nearly will always actually shut the engine down in gear, because when you take it out of gear,
It takes the stress off.
it takes the stress off.
Yeah.
So you want that stress on. So it's literally hold it on revs, boom, shut the engine down, tighten all those back up, and that's what I was talking about. That fine, very fine radial alignment.
Yeah.
And again, I know I've reiterated it, but nearly all of the alignment needs to be true to that.
Yes.
It's about all I can add, really.
Superb. Well, I've picked up on quite a lot, to be honest.
Hope you all enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time on another training day.